Guild Wars 2, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game released in 2012 and developed by ArenaNet, is growing into the new year of 2021 with their third expansion, End of Dragons. With this, it is most opportune to go over what Guild Wars 2 is like for new players stepping foot into Tyria, and to point out what has changed over the years. Players begin their journey into Guild Wars 2 by creating their character from a choice of 5 playable races and 8 core professions, plus 1 additional for those who have purchased the expansions. From here, an elaborate character creation process continues by fine-tuning one's character model, their starting gear die scheme, and then choosing role-playing attributes which influence the character's story. Once the character comes together, the player is tasked with facing an imminent threat to their race's city. This instance acts as the tutorial area where players learn the basic controls of the MMO, how to interact with NPCs to progress story missions, and of course, how to engage in Guild Wars 2's action combat. In Guild Wars 2, it is vital for players to watch what their enemies are doing to better prepare themselves to dodge out of the way, normally bound to the V key, or to react with the skill to interrupt their foes. Once success is achieved by conquering a boss fight, players are escorted to the open world experience. It is here that players will be able to experience the thriving and threatening world of Guild Wars 2. By pressing the M key, the open world map will be displayed and showcase pepperings of icons on the map. By talking to scouts, they will highlight and discuss certain troubles which can be remedied by the adventurer's aid. It is important to check in with your map and with scouts you find out in the field to give you more of a direction in your leveling experience. Hearts are the most trusty avenue for gaining experience, and act as the game's questing system. Often, and particularly around hearts, but also in more deserted areas, dynamic events will appear which present a variety of challenges for all adventurers around. Beware the challenges you face. Never be worried about calling on your fellow adventurers for extra help. Such a community may even create an opportunity for guilds and friendships to form. As your experience grows, so too will your story. Every 10 levels, new personal story missions will become available, further growing the world of Tyria and exposing new enemies. With more and more levels, characters will grow into their professions, unlocking more weapons, profession-specific skills, utility skills, and even specializations which work to emphasize the player's desired role in combat. At level 21, players can begin training their first specialization. At 45, their second becomes available, and at 71, their third. Such customizations come about by spending hero points, which are naturally earned by leveling, and by exploring Tyria and completing hero challenges. These points are used for training both utility skills and specializations. Such growth in power is necessary to tackle dungeons, which begin unlocking at level 30 and continue from there. Taking on dungeons requires an acute mastery of one's profession and communication skills with the rest of your team. Dungeons will better prepare you for harder endgame content. Upon nearing the final levels of Guild Wars 2, the final moments of the personal story unravel and play out. Now, what is there to do beyond this? Once a player reaches level 80, the attention to their gear may become more of an important priority. By increasing your gear to the various tiers, such as exotic or even ascended, players will further grow in power and be able to tackle more difficult content. On the same side of gear, legendary weapons may become a goal for some as they allow you to freely change your stats whenever out of combat, and have the added perk of looking rather impressive. Once gear has been attained, players can choose to begin their journey into the Fractals of the Mists, Guild Wars 2's 5-player PvE endgame content. Fractals of the Mists are scaling dungeons. The more you do, the higher the level you get, and the higher the level, the higher the difficulty. Lower level fractals ease new players into the dungeons, but eventually require more attention and even ascended gear to properly protect oneself from agony. There's also the option to continue on the base game of Guild Wars 2 and purchase the expansions Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, both of which are included in one package and are linked below. Purchasing the expansions opens players up to even more character customization with elite specializations and masteries, more story, and even more challenges with raids and strike missions. Guild Wars 2's 10-player PvE endgame content. For the more competitively inclined individuals, Guild Wars 2 offers dynamic player versus player experiences in the form of structured PvP and world versus world. Structured player versus player is accessible through the Heart of the Mists and pits teams of players against each other. The most popular form of PvP is Conquest, followed by Stronghold, Dueling, and a Deathmatch mode. There are also daily tournaments that are on a daily and monthly rotation. The typical game format is Conquest, but there are occasional mix-ups with tournaments taking the style of strongholds or duels. World vs. World is a much grander competitive experience, pitting 3 larger teams against each other and holding hundreds of players. At the time of making this video, your team is based on the server of your choosing when you first make your account, but the system is being worked on to implement the Alliance system. This Alliance system would set up your team based on your friends, acquaintances, and the guilds you are in. World vs. World focuses on larger squads of players sieging camps and castles to control larger portions of the map. There are special rewards only accessible in the 2 separate competitive types, structured PvP and World vs. World. So get to slaying and fun player versus player matchups. Guild Wars 2 is a gaming experience like none other, and 2021 is surging with the 3rd expansion, End of Dragons. Steel yourselves for an epic adventure and answer the question, what's your story?